You are now listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. This is episode 22.
Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
Welcome to the Lunch and Learn today with Dr. Barry. We're going to be going on part 2 of my discussion on raising a child with autism. And we're going to be talking a little bit more on the differences in raising a child with autism and raising siblings who don't really appear to have any autistic presentation. For today's show notes, please go to drpierresblog.com/LLP022. Again, for the show notes, please go to drpierresblog.com/LLP022. Now stay tuned for a great episode. And today I wanted to kind of, give even a little bit more, personal touch on it, especially when we talk about, how I'm raising, because I have 3 children total, with my twins, my youngest twins. They're almost about a year and like 8 months now. For them kind of seeing my daughter having to adjust to new siblings and share toys and those types of things has been very interesting and very telling dynamic. I think one of the things, especially kind of when I look at some of the differences of how I kind of treat my oldest daughter and even my 2 younger ones, is because my oldest daughter, one of her big things was like the delay and speech delay, and from a communication aspect. So a lot of our communication was more built on the actions that we did. So like I'd have to, like if she wanted milk, I'd have to show her milk, point milk, until she gets to the point where she understands milk is what I want. When I want to drink, she doesn't say all of that. And those signs, but like kind of watching my twins kind of grow up and seeing how much more verbal they are, especially at an early age, definitely was eye-opening for me, because then that kind of, gave that stark contrast and say, oh, okay, wow, I didn't realize you guys talked as much as you did, because, for our daughter, she wasn't very talkative. So she would, she mouthed a lot of things. She was, like I said, she was very active, jumping around, couldn't tell her nothing, from a social construct. She was, she liked being around people, liked being around us, of course, but liked being around people. And that wasn't really her thing. But when it came to, just kind of to verbalize and, be comfortable in her situation, like those were some of the telling differences that I already see, in my twins from a different standpoint. Like, my youngest daughter, she talks a mile a minute. Like, you can't stop her from talking, which is definitely one of the contrasts I've had to learn, kind of raising them both. Because with my oldest daughter, I was used to her not talking a lot. There be times where, we're just kind of doing our thing, and I just kind of almost forget that we need to even have a conversation, because we had gotten so down packed as far as our mannerisms and our behaviors and knowing what she wants, knowing when she wants it, that, having to kind of relearn that, like, I had to like be, even force her to kind of even be more verbal, as we need her to be, was definitely a learning transition for me. So what happens sometimes when I'm dealing with my youngest twins, sometimes I forget like I'm supposed to be like, gaga goo and, they'll do that, talking with them, because like they're just asking me a mile a minute now, like they're in this, what's that stage, everything they want to know what that is. So we're like having to like, almost parent, like 2 different styles, which is very common, in families with autistic children, because again, just because you have the one autistic children doesn't mean you'll have multiple autistic children, right? So learning to have to kind of balance your parenting styles to make sure that you're benefiting not only your child who is autistic, but your child who isn't, was something that I definitely had to and still have to work on, improving and getting better. Hey, Jesse, thank you for joining. Just we're talking about my daughter and my youngest twins, as far as different parenting styles I've had to learn, especially with my oldest daughter being autistic and my youngest daughter and son really not showing any signs for any type of delay, at least at this point, moving forward. So that was definitely something like I had to, be very mindful of, and just be more vigilant and more deliberate when I'm talking. Especially now, like I said, I talked about it on Tuesday, where now my daughter goes to Palmy School of Autism, and like I said, they've been like flat out amazing, right? So they've gotten her to be much more verbal and much more deliberate in what she wants and how she wants it, and so again, she's starting to learn now. Hey, I want this, I want that, or she'll gesture, like she'll point at the milk, or she'll go get the milk herself. So it's definitely been very interesting, kind of seeing that transition from having a kid who really wasn't verbal, who really wasn't talking very much, to one who, again, like I said, like almost talks too much. So now we gotta like tell her like it's okay, be quiet, be like relax. Now to the point where like now my daughter, like for now, like I don't know, especially my parents out there, the two movies like I've had to watch probably a million times, right, is actually it's the third one now. Frozen, like I had to watch that. Like I lost count the amount of times I had to watch Frozen. Then it was Finding Dory, and now it's Moana. And for those who haven't watched Moana, it's actually a great movie, even for the adults. So you go ahead and watch Moana. Shout out to Disney. But it was definitely very interesting to kind of see, like now, even with my daughter, my oldest daughter, again, watches those movies. She sings along with them. She talks with them. She knows a lot of those things word for word. Because from an intelligence standpoint, and that was something I had to learn too, especially when I first read and started, having to read up. Hey, Amanda, hey, thank you for joining. When I had to start reading up on autism and just, what to expect as a parent, right? Because unfortunately, there wasn't really a lot of information. There was a lot of like broken up information at one website and another website, or one foundation, another foundation, but there wasn't really like one pinpoint area where I could like, okay, hey, now your child's autistic, what do you do now? Like there wasn't anything of that out there. So just trying to get all these bits and pieces of information together, and kind of seeing like, okay, all right, well, as she kind of progresses and moves along, especially from a developmental standpoint, these are some of the highlights that we're going to see. These are some of the the low lights that we're going to see with her, and these are some of the obstacles that you may run into as we move forward. And seeing my daughter now, like again, to the point where every year she does these evaluation type tests from a developmental standpoint to kind of see where she grades at. And I mean, to see comparison to her scores before she started the school and her scores afterwards is like, pretty much phenomenal. And even though now she's in the school of autism, but like there's been always plans that she could possibly transition, especially when she's ready, and from like I think she moves up in grade level to even transition to like a regular school, which is something that if you would have asked us that 2.5 years ago, we would have probably like, probably not. Even though my wife's still probably my wife's still going back and forth on whether we're going to put her in a regular school, so we're not even sure. She's thinking homeschool, so we're not even sure as far as that aspect of it. But again, I think it is very nice to kind of see like, oh wow, she's made so much improvements that a regular school is definitely possible. So definitely excited, on those types of news there, because it was definitely a great sign of something that we love to hear, especially when we're dealing with autism. And again, like I said, I talked about it on Tuesday. My wife is actually going to be here. We're thinking next Thursday. My wife's we're gonna do like I'm not sure if she's gonna come to the office, or we're gonna do like a like a picture-in-picture type thing for the Facebook Live, and we're just gonna talk about autism, and she's gonna be talking about some of the comorbidities, and then she's gonna be talking about some of the stuff that she does as well, and some of the things that she's going to be providing, especially for parents who are dealing with kids with autism, and kind of I think for one thing, trying to get them to not like hit some of the hurdles that we had to hit. Because again, even though again I was a physician, whatever, and she was in that field, there were still hurdles and obstacles that we kind of had to go over and move past, just to get to the next level as well. So definitely excited to hear from her next week. And she has a blog post coming out tomorrow. So please, and I'm gonna get on her because she was supposed to write it Wednesday, but she didn't, and that's okay. So we didn't get a post on Wednesday, but she's writing one. She's already pretty much written for Friday. To talk about a little bit of her point as well. So again, didn't want to just kind of recap on what we talked about. We talked a little bit more about autism and the effects it has, again, almost like a part 2 of Tuesdays of how it had on me from a fatherhood perspective. And we kind of talked about the compare and contrast of what it's like raising a child with autism, and then raising other children who don't really seem to be having that developmental delay, and understanding, making sure that you're maximizing your parenthood and your parenthooding skills that both sets of parties kind of benefit. So again, I don't want to keep you guys on here long. It's been amazing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. If you want to find out more about the episode, please go to www.lunchlearnpod.com. That's www.lunchlearnpod.com for the show notes and any links that may have been mentioned in today's episode. If you're interested in joining the Lunch Learn Pod community, head over to either the website lunchlearnpod.com or join us on Facebook and Twitter with the same username, Lunch Learn Pod. And again, you can find all of these links on the website. If you have any questions, any comments, or any requests for topics to debut on the show, please let that be known. And don't forget to use the hashtag LunchLearnPod when you're listening to the episode. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode, and I'll see you next week.